започнем. Готов?
So, dear Mr. Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, welcome to Chisinau. It is our honor to have you here in a visit during these difficult times for our neighbors in Ukraine as well as for the whole region. Your visit, in fact, is a sign of support and peace for all of us. Your visit comes on a symbolic day on which we are celebrating the end of the Second World War. After that World War, the countries of the world did establish the United Nations Organization as a forum for maintaining peace and security internationally, for the development of friendship relationship between nations, promotion of human rights, and social progress. Peace maintenance is still today a very important objective of the United Nations Organization, an objective for our region too. For 75 days, we are witnesses of a tragedy that is ongoing in Ukraine. The military Russian aggression against Ukraine represents a flagrant violation of the fundamental rights of people and of the international law and humanitarian law. This war did throw Europe into an uncertainty situation. Mr. Secretary General, you were able to convince yourself personally when visiting recently Ukraine. The Republic of Moldova did condemn the Russian aggression from the very first day, and we've asked for stopping these fights and restoring the peace. Our country did support all the resolutions of the General Assembly of the United Nations Organization on this topic. We, the Moldovans, we are solidary with the friends and neighbors from Ukraine. Our people did open their homes and hearts for the refugees coming from Ukraine. Almost 500,000 of people entered Moldova since the start of the war. Over 90,000 refugees are still in our country. Half of these people are children. Most of the refugees are in the houses of people not in the state placement centers or in the centers established by the international organizations. 90,000 refugees is a big number for a country with a stable population of 2.6 million people. That is why we were really happy to get the international community support to strengthen the national services that exist in the country, to relocate the refugees and to cover the costs, operational costs that are urgent. We are very grateful to the UN agencies that mobilize themselves to support the efforts of the country to help Ukrainian refugees coming to Moldova under the coordination of the High Commissioner, UN Commissioner for Refugees. Our country is facing for the first time with such a challenge, and that is why we have to do our best to cope with more difficulties, and the state institutions as well as international organizations that are located in the country had to learn from the go to be able to cope with such a big flow of people. We are really thankful for the support provided until now to the refugees. The UN agencies did manage to bring together over $100 million to support the Ukrainian refugees in the Republic of Moldova. This money is managed directly by the UN team and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. We would like all this support provided to the refugees and to their hosts in Moldova to get faster and in a sufficient amount to the destination, to every refugee, so that these people can cover their needs in timely. The war in Ukraine is a topic that affects us directly. We are monitoring very carefully the situation and the evolution of things in the region. The information and defense, public order defense institutions are working in a very alert way in order to not allow for destabilization of the situation. We have constant communication with our partners. We are vigilant and we will stay vigilant from now on. Our priority in this moment is to maintain peace, the life and safety of our citizens, as well as of the Ukrainians that we are taking care of. Today, the Republic of Moldova is coping with some overlap of crises, the effects of the pandemic crisis, of the energy crisis, inflation, as well as price growth, reorientation of the commercial flows. But no matter what are the challenges, I would assure you that the Republic of Moldova is going on its path of developing democracy and European integration. We wish to consolidate the resilience of the state in front of any challenges, including security-related ones, and to provide to our citizens welfare and a European future. The war convinced us that we have no time to lose. We have to advance quickly towards our goal. And in this context, we highly appreciate the sustainable partnership that we have built between the Republic of Moldova and the United Nations Organization. Dear Mr. Secretary General, the Republic of Moldova is a member state of the United Nations Organization for 30 years, time during which we built a trustful partnership. Between 1992 and 2022, the Republic of Moldova did sign over 300 international treaties of the UN and specialized agencies. Starting from 2003, our country did detach 148 military men and women in UN peace maintenance operations in different corners of the world, thus contributing to peace maintenance and stability in the world. Currently, in the Republic of Moldova, we have 23 agencies, programs and funds of the United Nations with activities in many areas like sustainable development, health, education, labor market, human rights, including rights of children, justice, economy, green economy, climate, sustainable agriculture, and many other. The UN agencies are working in all the regions of the country. UN has been close with our country in very difficult times. We highly appreciate the contribution of the United Nations Organization, of the UNICEF, of UNDP, and other UN agencies that are supporting the efforts of the government related to managing the COVID-19 pandemic. I have mentioned already the active cooperation that we do have at the moment with the UN agencies in the context of the refugee problem. In several months, we are going to approve a new partnership framework between the Republic of Moldova and the United Nations organizations for the period from 2023 to 2027 that is going to support the sustainable development efforts of the country and life quality improvement. The Republic of Moldova is using the platform provided by UN to ask for the withdrawal of the foreign troops of the Russian Federation from the territory of the Transnistrian region in our country and to attract the attention on the human rights violations that are admitted in the region controlled by the unrecognized regime. These topics, being part of the UN resolutions, keep the problem of the Transnistrian referendum in the sight or attention of the international community. We want to find a peaceful solution to the conflict that will strengthen our state and that would allow it to develop further on to the benefit of all its citizens. The United Nations Organization is still a global platform, a very important one for the small countries where these can make their voice heard. Being a small country, the Republic of Moldova highly appreciates this thing. We are living through some uncertain times which require the reconfiguration of the international relations. The UN may have a very important place and role to play in the new global context if it stands with its humanistic goals and if it provides a safe place and a voice to everyone, including to the small countries. We appreciate highly the partnership that has been built during these 30 years with the United Nations Organization, and we would like to develop it further. And for this, we do need peace. We have to stop the crimes and the destructions of the war. The international community shall undertake all the efforts necessary to stop the war that is devastating and that was started in Ukraine, to restore peace in our neighboring country and friendly country. This is our duty towards the people from Ukraine and towards our citizens and towards the present and future generations in the region, as well as in the whole Europe, that deserve to live in peace, freedom, and welfare. Thank you very much.
Madam Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen of the media, I thank the government and people of Moldova for your warm welcome on my first visit to Chisinau. As I told Prime Minister Gravilica, I am here on a mission of solidarity and gratitude to thank Moldova for your steadfast support for peace and for your generosity in opening your borders, your homes and your hearts to almost 500,000 Ukrainian refugees. Moldova is not just another country receiving refugees. The most fragile of Ukraine's neighbors, Moldova is by far the country that has received the most refugees as a proportion of its own population. Moldova needs and deserves massive support, including budget support, to match its generosity and to preserve stability. The impact of the war in Ukraine across the region and the world is profound and far-reaching. The consequences of escalation are too frightening to contemplate. I am deeply concerned about the continuation and possible spread of the war Russia is waging in Ukraine and by the impact it is having not only in the region but around the world. Neighboring countries like Moldova are already struggling with the socio-economic ramifications of this war, coming on top of the COVID and the uneven recovery that unfortunately was happening in our world for lack of effective solidarity of the rich with the poor. The United Nations is committed to supporting not only the people of Ukraine, but also the people of Moldova during these difficult times. Your sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity, and the solid progress you have made over the past 3 decades must not be threatened or undermined. The Russian invasion of Ukraine must stop, the guns must be silenced, and I urge Russia and Ukraine to step up diplomatic efforts through dialogue to urgently achieve the negotiated settlement in line with international law and the UN Charter. And I call on regional and international partners to support this process in the interest of global stability. And I repeat my offer to provide my good offices at any time to put an end to this senseless war. On 9 May, of all days, we remember that dialogue and cooperation based on mutual respect are the bedrock of peace and security in Europe and around the world. I congratulate the Republic of Moldova on the 30th anniversary of joining the United Nations, and thank you for your contributions and strong partnership in areas including peacekeeping, sustainable development, gender equality, climate change, and I would go on and on. Despite the difficult and indeed tragic circumstances of my visit, I have already experienced the hospitality that is a hallmark of your country. I thank you for extending that hospitality to 100,000 Ukrainian refugees staying in Moldova, an increase of almost 4% of your population. Moldova may not be the largest or wealthiest country in Europe, but its tremendous humanity and generosity are clear for all to see. I witnessed the horrific humanitarian catastrophe in Ukraine for myself, but by standing in solidarity with the Ukrainians, Moldova, together with other neighboring countries, have mounted a highly effective response to the regional refugee crisis. And I also welcome the steps Moldova and other neighboring countries are taking to protect refugees against human trafficking, gender-based violence, and other forms of abuse. The United Nations is supporting refugees, displaced people, and those communities both inside and outside Ukraine. So far, more 200 partners, mostly national NGOs, have reached more than 5.4 million people inside the country with aid, including food, shelter, blankets, medicines, and water. But obviously, this is not enough. We need to do much more. And we are working to double our reach in some areas over the coming months. Everywhere, our operations in Ukraine focus on the most vulnerable, children, women, elderly people, and those with disabilities. Here in Moldova, and I have to say that it was not easy for the UN to readapt to a humanitarian crisis in Europe. Here we do not have refugee camps. Refugees live with the families of Moldova. Here we don't have the traditional forms of humanitarian support in the crisis areas of the developing world, in fragile states. And so it took us some time to fully organize our work and to fully correspond to the needs of cooperation that Moldova expects in relation to the UN. But now we are doing everything we can in order to scale up our programs. And in particular, the most effective of those programs, cash assistance, because we must trust people know what their needs are. We aim of supporting over 90,000 refugees and 55,000 Moldovan hosts in coordination with the government and other partners. So far, 12 member states have joined the EU Solidarity Platform and make pledges to transfer Ukrainian refugees from Moldova. I encourage others to demonstrate joint responsibility and solidarity by joining this initiative. Moldova is a small country with a big heart, but its resources are limited. The United Nations and our partner organizations can only support governments to meet the needs of everyone affected by this war if our two humanitarian appeals for $2.25 billion inside Ukraine and $1.85 billion for the refugee response are fully funded. And I urge all countries to give generously. In global terms, these are minuscule sums. I also urge all countries to consider upgrading their economic partnership with Moldova and to support opportunities for its young women and men. The war is having a devastating impact on the Moldovan economy, with supply chains broken and fuel and food prices rising fast. For its European Union neighbors, massive solidarity with Moldova is not a matter of generosity. It is a matter of enlightened self-interest. Many young Moldovans are considering leaving or have already left, while many remain active in support of their country from outside. Moldova needs peace for the sake of these dynamic young agents of change who have so much to offer. And I'm speaking from personal knowledge on this subject, as one of my own youth climate advisors, Vladislav Kaim, is from Moldova. Our United Nations country team in Moldova will continue to do its best to support the government and people throughout these serious challenges. But above all, I want to thank Moldova for its generosity and solidarity, for its steadfast support for peace and multilateral solutions, and for its example of humanity. Thank you very much.
Dear Prime Minister, Mr. Secretary General, there will be a question and answer session from the media. We'll take 2 questions for each of you, and we'll start with the questions from the local media from the Republic of Moldova. Good afternoon, Daniel Andreev, Pro TV. Mr. Guterres, the question is to you. I would like to ask you, why have you chosen to pay a visit to the Republic of Moldova today on the 9th of May, and how you see the situation in the Republic of Moldova in the context of the war in Ukraine, the tensions which have been happening lately in the Transnistrian region, and if you think Moldova is a threat?
If I think Moldova is?
A threat, is threatened. Yes.
Well, the fact I'm here on the 9th of May is a pure coincidence. This visit is programmed in association with the meeting of the Chief Executive Board in Vienna, and so it was convenient both for the government and Moldova and for me. It is a pure coincidence. I have to say that Moldova is in the front line of preservation, peace and stability in the world, with the war so close and with the divisions that are known. My hope is that there will be a clear sense of responsibility of all the actors in both sides of the river, and that sense of responsibility will prevent any threat to the Republic of Moldova, because the Republic of Moldova deserves peace, deserves stability, and deserves international massive support to face this enormous challenge of refugees.
Întrebarea mea este pentru doamna Gavriliță.
And my question goes to Ms. Gavrilița. Could you please provide us more details about what has happened to the president and why she's absent? Is this because of health reasons? Is this the first time this is happening? So, indeed, there had been a press release on behalf of the president's office. The president had to change her schedule for health reasons. At the same time, we are a team, and we are a united team. We are a team which share the same visions in relation to the development of the country, in relation to keeping Moldova on the side of the free world, Moldova's integration into the European Union, and its direction for development. And this is why, as you can see, we could totally take over all the elements of the schedule, and we could have a discussion that was full of content with the Secretary General.
Dear Mr. Secretary General, Madam Premier Gavrilița, Christiania Cervenkova, BTV, Bulgarian National Television. I would like to ask you a combined question about the rising tension in the region in terms of the so-called separatist Republic Transnistria. We've received different reviews and reports from Ukraine intelligence, from Moldovan intelligence, also from Russian intelligence about rising tension, mobilization, their drone strikes. And today is the Victory Day here in Moldova. It has been celebrated, and also it was celebrated here. Also, it has been celebrated in Russia. And today, the Russian president told that, and he used the holiday, the Monday holiday, to justify again the war in Ukraine. What is your response to this? Do you plan a mobilization here? I mean, the military. And what is the response for misinformation here in the region? Do you expect an initial threat here? And Mr. Secretary General, I should ask you, because the Bulgarian refugees from Ukrainian refugees from who are in Bulgaria are a lot. Do you plan to visit Bulgaria as well, just to see how the refugee crisis is going on, how the authorities are coping with the problem there? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your question. Our position is very clear. We respect, and we ask the whole world to respect, the independence, the sovereignty, and the territorial integrity of Moldova. As I said in my initial statement, it is absolutely essential to preserve the territorial integrity. And any violation of the territorial integrity of any country, including Moldova, is a violation to international law, and it's a violation to the UN Charter. So our position is very clear. Now, there are problems to be solved. The OSCE was in charge with the 5+2. I know the 5 now are in a kind of low, I would say, but the 2 are maintaining its contacts as far as I know, and it's important that those contacts are maintained. And the United Nations has never been part of any mediation, but we are always at the disposal for whatever will be necessary. The objective is clear, independently of small incidents that might occur, or independently of false information that is propagated. The independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Moldova must be preserved. Now, I do not intend to visit all countries that have received refugees from the Ukraine. I decided to come to Moldova for a very clear reason. Moldova does not benefit from the fact of being a member of the European Union. My country, even if today I do not belong to my country, but my country has benefited enormously from being a member of the European Union. The massive investment of Europe in my country, as in Bulgaria, the support we had during the COVID-19 and the recovery plans that were approved. Moldova has no access to these benefits. Moldova is a small country with a relatively small and fragile economy, is a landlocked country with all the problems and inconvenience that a landlocked country has when there is a war. Odessa was, I suppose, the harbor from where your imports and exports more easily could reach the global markets. That harbor is closed. So Moldova is by far the country that has been more impacted, having received the largest percentage of refugees in relation to its own population. So if I wanted to see the difficult situations, if I wanted to see where it's more problematic to support refugees, and they are being well supported thanks to the generosity of Moldovan, if I wanted to see all these things, I think I've chosen the right country to visit. Of course, I might go to other countries, but for me, the visit to Moldova is a must, because Moldova is the country more impacted by this war, with less resources to face the consequences of the war, and with more generosity in receiving refugees from Ukraine.
În privința întrebării dumneavoastră, suntem...
In relation to your question, we are worried with the incidents that have happened in the Transnistrian region. At the same time, as I have mentioned, we are in permanent touch with our partners. We exchange information and analysis, and our information indicate a low risk of escalation of military actions on the territory of the Republic of Moldova. I have mentioned that there's no news about the possible military mobilization. So far, we have no reason to be worried and to resort to such actions. And definitely, this indicates that our efforts to fight disinformation, to fight fake news, this shows that these are important efforts for us in order to mitigate the anxiety and the worries among our citizens. Again, we use all diplomatic means and all the functional formats, and with the authorities of the so-called Transnistrian region to make sure that we can release any tension and we maintain peace and stability in the Republic of Moldova. If our assessments would change, we would communicate with the people through official channels. This is why, please, let's be solidary, because solidarity means to support each other, communicate and inform each other correctly, and communicate in a calm way and make sure that we maintain peace on our territory. Thank you.
Secretary, please. UN tries to reach peace. On the other hand, NATO seems to go somewhere else.
There must be some difficulty. Can you speak more to the micro also?
This microphone.
The micro
okay. UN tries to reach peace. On the other hand, NATO seems to go somewhere else. Don't you think that the action of NATO and the action of UN will erase each other with serious damage to the very function of the United Nations?
You refer to the UN and you refer to
NATO.
NATO and the UN are two completely different organizations. NATO is a voluntary association of countries with the objective of ensuring their collective defense. The UN is the platform that gathers all countries in the world with objectives that go from sustainable development, climate change, to the peace and security problems of all over the world, and especially in areas of bigger fragility, like the African continent or others of the same nature. The UN has a strong commitment to human rights. The UN is, as a global program, for the Agenda 2030, for the Sustainable Development Goals, and the UN is the platform where all countries can exchange views and can cooperate. So I think each organization has its vocation. The vocation of each must be respected, but I don't see any problem that would undermine the role of the UN.
Vă mulțumim.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All the best.